Have you ever heard about ICQs? I mean ICQs and CCQs. Have you ever heard about them? If not, don't worry because today I'm going to tell you everything about them. Let's go! Hello exam seekers, I'm Patty and today I'm talking about CCQs and ICQs. I've been talking about the CELTA course for a while now. Some relevant topics I touched upon were receptive skills versus productive skills, building rapport, lesson planning, and others. Today, I bring to you another topic that is pretty relevant for the CELTA course and for your lives as teachers. ICQs and CCQs. Do you know what they stand for? Have you ever used them? What for? Even though their spelling is the same to the ICQ, one is not the least bit related to the instant messaging website that was a fever at the end of the 20th century and the beginning of the 21st century. Well, in this video, I'm going to tell you what ICQs and CCQs are, how to ask them, and the relationship to the CELTA course. So, to begin with, when you start a teaching course like the CELTA or even pre-service training at a school, there is every likelihood you will come across these two acronyms, especially when talking about lesson plans and the language you use while teaching. It is essential to know that the ICQs and the CCQs are types of questions, but more than knowing what they are, you need to know the differences between them, since they may be pretty similar, but entirely different types of questions in reality. What are ICQs? ICQ stands for Instruction Checking Question. It is used after setting instructions, as the name suggests, to check students' understanding of the command you have just given. Here's an example. You show your students the activity sheet with types of actions and some gaps below them. A common fill in the gap activity. Then you tell them, sit in trios. In these gaps, write all the parts of the body that you need to perform the actions above. Sometimes more than one part of the body is required. And you can repeat the word you have already used if you need to. So these are the instructions. Then you check if students understood the instructions by saying, alright, now are you going to do this individually? What do you need to write in the gaps? Can you repeat them or write more than one word? Alright, you can start. These are the instruction checking questions. As you can see in your lesson plan, beside the ICQs, there are expected answers in the parentheses. When you are planning your lesson, it is vital to write the ICQs down, followed by the possible answers to the questions you have just asked, since this is what you expect students to come up with after you set the instructions. If they answer differently, you know that your instructions were not clear enough. By having your instructions and the ICQs written down, you won't waste class time thinking about them. Moreover, they will be clear for your students to understand without you having to repeat yourself. Once the students answer all of the questions and you are more sure of their understanding, you start the exercise and will most certainly have a better outcome than if you had not checked your instructions. What are CCQs? CCQs, on the other hand, means concept checking questions. You can use these questions to check about a grammar topic, new vocabulary, or pretty much every different concept that may be unclear for students yet. For instance, after you show a picture to elicit some vocabulary, you can ask questions related to the word itself to check if students truly understood what the neolexes mean. Look at this picture. These are cobblestones. After showing this picture, what are some questions you could ask to clarify meaning and make sure your students got the idea? Some possibilities are they types of rocks? Are they used in the pavement? Can you walk over it? Depending on the level or the course you are teaching, you could ask even more specific questions. For example, you could compare cobblestones to another type of pavement, and so on. And of course, this is an example based on vocabulary. You can, as I mentioned, ask CCQs for grammatical topics to clarify present perfect or the differences between present perfect and simple past, for instance. Curiosity. Have you noticed that the answers to the CCQs are all affirmative in my example? Well, you should be very careful when preparing CCQs that lead to a negative answer. They are always tricky. Are they earth? No. So if they're not earth, what are they? When we ask a question expecting a negative answer, we understand that the student realized what it is not. But we don't really know if they understood what the concept actually is. Therefore, it is very important to plan ahead your CCQs and, most importantly, questions that expect positive answers. What about the CCQs and ICQs during the CELTA course? Chances are that during the CELTA course, you will use both CCQs and ICQs intensively, which is a fantastic opportunity to learn how to make them effective and realize how much of a difference they can make in a lesson. Still, it is worth taking into account that both types of questions should be leveled depending on the group you teach. For instance, if you teach a beginner group, you will most likely come up with more objective and short questions to check the understanding of both instructions and concepts, rather than asking long and complicated questions. Therefore, even though asking those questions may look easy, they can be quite tricky at times, especially in the beginning, when you are not used to making them. Something to bear in mind is that even though these questions are relevant and quite useful, when used appropriately, you should always think about when they will be relevant and genuinely help students, rather than confuse them. For example, when you elicit with pictures, it is not always necessary to ask questions. Sometimes they are too obvious or irrelevant. For example, is this a toy? Is this a robot? Can you play with it? Do children play with it? Do adults play with it? Is this round? On the other hand, there are concepts for which CCQs are vital, and if not prepared in advance, or if the words are not chosen appropriately, they could lead to misunderstanding, which will turn out to confuse students and sometimes in the non-completion of a task. For this reason, always reflect on what the best question would be. If it is not wordy, or even if the words are clear and have already been learned. Another aspect to keep in mind is that whenever you use ICQs and CCQs, you aim to clarify and make sure students understand what you said. However, these are not the only way you can do so. They are undoubtedly useful and do help learners a lot regarding comprehension. But on the other hand, There are other ways to check understanding, such as elicitation, modeling, asking another student, and so on and so forth. Now, let's practice what I just taught you guys in this video, alright? Are ICQs and CCQs questions? Do you use ICQs to check meaning or understanding of instructions? Do you use CCQs to check comprehension of vocabulary or grammatical items? Should you plan your CCQs and ICQs? Well, if you answered all of these questions correctly, it means that you grasped the idea. But if you still have questions about CCQs and ICQs, make sure to leave a comment in the comment section or check my blog post, link in the description. Alright? You can also try and practice your CCQs and ICQs in the comments. I will check them all. Well, I hope that this content was useful for you, and if you want more content like this one, make sure you subscribe to the channel. And also don't forget to like and share this video with the others so that more and more people can get this content. Okie dokie? Well, that's it for today. Thanks for watching me and see you next time. Bye bye. Was this video about ICQs and CCQs? Was this video useful? I hope it was. Well, this was not. Anyways.